Okay, Wendell, where you are right now?
We're at the airport outside of Samara.
What the name of airport?
Kuramac.
What do you think about the airport?
The airport is beautiful. We see some problems. There's a leak because there was rain last night, so there's a leak that they have to fix. But otherwise, it's beautifully done. Very, very nicely done.
So we had a couple weeks of this trip.
2 weeks.
2 weeks, right? And we were planning to do many things, but what happened?
Well, we were planning possibly on going to Leningrad and Krim. But the very first morning that we arrived, after we arrived, you went for a walk and were bitten by dogs. So that threw our plans off, and we made one full day trip, more or less, during the day. Flew there early morning, flew back early the next morning to Moscow, and that was a very nice trip. And it was good for you, that trip, because you'd been to Moscow before, but in a hurry, so it's a big city, so it can be a hassle, but we had an excellent time there. It was a beautiful day, perfect weather, and so on.
So obviously, because I was bitten by dogs, we had to go to emergency room and so on, so on. You obviously saw doctors, how they dealt with me. What do you think about medical services in Russia right now? Even it's not Soviet Union. What do you think? Your impression?
Well, the facilities inside were nice. The personnel at the facilities were excellent. Very helpful to you. You were unsure what to do after you'd been bitten, but we cleaned up the wounds, and we talked to your cousin Andrei, and he made a call to the emergency room near him, so we went there first. Then there were some complications with regard to your having additional shots, and eventually somebody called you who was the physician for the area where we're staying, and so you had the additional 2 shots in a different facility, also downtown.
So I was offering them to pay, but how did they deal with
it? Well,
it?
they can't accept it. I guess the rules are such that they have to provide it.
Because it's emergency situation.
Right, it's an emergency, and it's just the rules that they have to abide by according to the law. And you personally, I didn't obviously talk to the people or see the people who were treating you except at the very beginning.
Yeah, what do you think about their diligence? Like they were calling first thing in the morning, making me...
Well, that was the physician who's responsible for the area where we were staying. And she called you up, and she had to have an exact address to know which facility you should go to. Again, I'm sure they're following the rules to the letter. They have to do
so,
exactly.
You see, they entered my information in the same electronic system.
They have an electronic system, so obviously it was relayed to the appropriate person responsible for primary care in the area where we were.
Yeah, they saw me in the system, and that's why they had to respond.
To follow up. So it's very, very diligent people. Again, the physical facilities, just like many of the the buildings, the roads, and so on in the area have a very shabby look. Not all of them, but many of them. It's just the difficulties, I guess, of the transition from
shorten up.
the Soviet system and the collapse of the system over 25 years. So anyway, that's another discussion.
Okay, it's another discussion, and let's call it not collapsing, because things don't collapse on their own. We know.
I don't want to argue.
That's what I mean.
Please.
That we don't use collapsing. It was destroyed. Okay, by from outside and not being responsible from inside.
Well, there was certainly a lot of pressure.
Some people like me not being responsible inside, we didn't withstand the influence from outside. That's the more appropriate thing to say.
Was pressure, well, that's another discussion. It's too
Right.
long a discussion to go into.
Yeah, okay, let's stop for a moment.
I'm just talking about reality. Okay, that's all I'm talking about.
Well, you see, it's the same like to say, oh, butter became more expensive today. No, butter doesn't just become more expensive today.
Man,
there is a
let's
reason, objective reason for that.
Why don't we stop this discussion
Okay.
now? This is
You started it.
pleasure trip.
Okay, just be quiet.
No, I'm just saying the impression is that one has is of relative poverty. In other words, not in, it's it's not meant negatively. It's just an
Well,
observation.
you see, it's so relevant. It depends.
I agree
I
it's
would say
relevant.
because look, the proportion of the
Let's not
salary
argue.
and the price of the car. Be quiet. The proportion of the salary and the price of the car is the same as at the Soviet times. But at Soviet times we had like few cars on the road. Now it's like in the United States. It's crazy.
I'm not an advocate of cars anyway.
That's what I
so
mean. Then when I found out that
public
people literally
transportation
buy,
or walking.
I know, but the point is poverty. Excuse me. People buy things for credit.
Well,
They live in credit. That's wrong. It's
not
that
good.
their problem. So there is no
credit-
poverty. It's their priorities, and they are responsible for that.
Some consumer credit is advantageous, but when it's overdone, it's not. It's overdone in the United States, and I wouldn't want it. People
Well,
are not used to it here.
Right.
Whereas people in the United
They don't
States,
know
the system has been developed
that they're living in
over
credit
200 years, and here it's,
today. But
it's
what
been
about
looked-
their children and grandchildren? They don't even think about it.
Well, okay, it's the same thing of these mobile devices like you're using now. I mean, they're advantageous, but it's like watching television in just a waste of time. It's just people staring at these stupid things. It's idiotic. But
Oh
that's
yes,
another
they do.
discussion.
Oh yes, they do.
This is
Okay.
supposed to be a travelogue. not a
Okay, hold
political
on. I will
discussion.
have another question. Hold on.
What's right? There's construction going on, and of course, on the main roads, primarily Moskovskaya Chaussee, which is the main road from this, obviously going to Moscow, coming into the city from the north, has been under reconstruction since we've been coming here the last 3 years, and there's obviously significant progress every year that we see, but there's just a tremendous amount of work to be done. The workers are obviously extremely diligent. They're working every single day.
Can you
of
turn
the
your
week.
face a little bit here to the
Yeah.
light? Okay,
They're
better.
working every single day of the week. You know, just extremely hard physical labor. Of course, there's a tremendous amount of heavy equipment, and so on and so forth. But it's a huge challenge. And of course, this is an investment that's related apparently primarily to Russia hosting the World Cup in 2018 next year. Although obviously the improvements in infrastructure, being roads, bridges, anything of that sort, is sorely needed here, just like it is in other countries like the United
So
States.
it's a good reason to do that.
Well, I know, but you should do it separately. I don't. Whatever. That's another political discussion. Just like holding the Olympics, Winter Olympics, it was a huge investment in the Sochi area. But enough said. And that meant that because of the impact on the traffic patterns, because we're outside the city, probably about 30 kilometers from the historical center of the city where we stayed before twice. It took a very long time, an hour or more, to go that 30 kilometers just because of the backup in the traffic. Drivers, by and large, are pretty good. You occasionally have...
Besides some jerks.
Well, it's true. I mean, Italy's the same. They're really no different from driving in Italy.
Really?
Oh, no.
Okay.
There are people who do really stupid things there, and probably in other European countries. It's rare, much rarer in the United States. You don't find people doing the things that they do here. But
Okay,
by
I
and large,
stop.
very good.
I'll ask you a question. Okay, so what do you think about Russian people in general? Because my impression, they became much more patient, much more polite, and more relaxed, I would say, even in hard times. But for some reason, they are more confident. What is your impression?
Well, my impression is very positive. Not only your relatives are delightful, and you've seen them for the last 3 years. Your friend Vera, who you grew up with in the outskirts of Samara, of course, is delightful. A very, very talented person. Aside from that, she can do the same things you do in terms of crafts and sewing and knitting. Just incredible. And of course, they have 2 beautiful places they've renovated. And then, people are very, very helpful. You stop somebody on the street to ask a question, the person stops, is very courteous, takes the time to speak to you, and so on. So I've been very positively impressed, and all the officials have been extremely helpful. And the kids, there are lots and lots of kids around. They're really cute, and they all say "Здравствуйте," say hello to you, and so you have to respond. And just very, very cute, very nice.
We made one day trip to Moscow and we were late. What you can tell us about it?
Well, we were
At this airport.
That was my fault. I thought that if we arrived half an hour before the domestic flight, it would be okay. As it turns out, We didn't arrive a half an hour. We arrived maybe 20 minutes before the flight was scheduled to leave. It was scheduled to leave at 6:15 a.m. And we arrived here at the airport in the car at 5:45, but then it took us 10 minutes to get to the check-in, and we were extremely fortunate. There was a woman at the check-in available who had to make a phone call to check to make sure we could still make it to the plane.
An administrator took us even to the
Well, right.
where we're supposed to go
She very quickly
to
gave
speed
us,
it up.
She very quickly gave us tickets there and tickets back, told us where to go. A person made sure we got through there. As it turned out, it was fine. The plane had already boarded. It was a full plane. We took our seats. We actually didn't leave for another 15 minutes, so we didn't delay anything. But we were extremely lucky. If I were the person working at the check-in, I would say no, probably. They were just very, very nice, very helpful.
Okay, wonderful. I think it's enough about this trip. We can say much more, many more interesting things, but I think it's already 11 minutes we're making this video. So we are waiting for our plane back to United States or the Moscow.
Well, the only other thing I'll say is I've been trying very hard to listen to people speaking Russian, primarily Lena speaking with her friends and family. And
So you said I speak too fast?
well, no, not too fast. You speak very, very fast, and I'm used to hearing you, but it's so fast and so fluent that it's very difficult for me to pick out words. I can pick out some words, but make mistakes on the sounds otherwise. It's much harder for me to try to distinguish words and understand what someone else is saying. It would take me much longer. I had estimated, like in Italy, when I was
Okay,
a
we need to
teenager.
stop.
Well, anyway, it would take me 3 months to have a basic understanding before I could really talk. Here it would
Okay,
be at
we
least
need to
6
stop
months.
because I have no more time
Okay,
left.
all right.
Okay, that's enough for now.
Okay.